In my early 20s, I followed all the health advice. I woke up at 5 a.m., made a smoothie, went to the gym, had an intense workout all before work. I prioritized real food and vegetables. I tried to fall asleep and wake up at the same time each day and be as productive as I could throughout the day. And I squeezed in self-care, socializing, and mindfulness when I could. Sometimes I felt great, but most of the time I felt so exhausted, defeated, and just like there weren't enough hours in the day to get everything done. And then it got interesting because I realized that most of this health advice came from studies that were primarily done on men. And men's bodies naturally follow a 24-hour hormonal cycle. Their hormones rise and fall predictably each day in a 24-hour rotation that starts again the next day at the same time. Women, on the other hand, operate on a 28-day hormonal cycle. And that cycle can be broken into 4 phases, each with different hormonal shifts, energy patterns, and needs. That means that the best ways to eat, exercise, socialize, and work, and pretty much do anything, changes throughout the month depending on where we are in our cycle. There are times of the month when our body is designed for productivity, lighter foods, and intense movement, and other times when slowing down is not just important, it's actually essential. If we push through the phases that require rest, we can actually end up sabotaging our energy and our health instead of supporting it. For many of us, the key to feeling energized, productive, and healthy is knowing when to speed up and when to slow down. And this may seem like a burden, but I'm here to show you that it's actually an incredible gift. I'm so excited about this. When we honor each phase of our cycle, it's like unlocking hidden superpowers that we might miss out on otherwise. Men are incredible and have so many strengths, but women are incredible in different ways that are equally as powerful. But the problem is this information isn't widely taught, so many women aren't even tapping into it. You may have noticed the world runs on the men's 24-hour cycle, and women have been forced to follow along with that, even though it completely goes against our natural rhythm. But the good news is that we can still honor our cycle within today's world by learning about it and making meaningful shifts, whether subtle or big. This knowledge is powerful for women, but it's actually something everyone should understand. Imagine what would be possible if we all embraced, supported, and respected each other's true nature. Everyone would benefit from the improved health, productivity, and unique strengths unleashed when women tap into this. I truly believe that honoring these rhythms, both individually and collectively, is a huge key in healing ourselves and improving the world. Welcome to Be Youer, where we talk about healing and creating a soul-aligned life of freedom so you can live fully alive and true to yourself. I'm happy you're here. Welcome to the 8th post of the Beyond Band-Aid series, your guide to healing from the root so you can live at your fullest potential. You can find the written posts and podcast on my Substack, or you can hear the video and audio on my podcast, Be Youer. I'm going to use my blog post here to guide me along, and I just want to let you know I also created a free cycle syncing guide that can be referred to, printed, looked at, whatever, to help you more easily and quickly look at what's going on in each phase. So you can get that in the show notes or in the blog post. I'm so excited to share this post because I am obsessed with the strengths that women just innately have, and constantly as I'm talking to women, I can see them disempowered about these strengths or not even aware of them. And I just love opening people's eyes to the magic and the positives and the good of things that we were taught to complain about and be upset that we have to deal with in a way. So let's dive into the first section of here. We are going to talk about the purpose of the menstrual cycle, an overview of cycle syncing and the 4 phases. And the 4 phases are the follicular phase, which you can refer to as inner spring, ovulatory or inner summer, luteal or inner fall, and menstrual or inner winter. And then lastly, I'm just going to share ways to track your cycle. Let's dive in. So what is the purpose of the menstrual cycle? Most of us grow up understanding that women have a period roughly once a month as long as we're not pregnant. But the menstrual cycle is so much more than bleeding. It's a powerful, intelligent rhythm designed to support one of the most incredible processes the body can do, which is create life. And on top of that, it also offers us unique benefits that are really often overlooked and easily missed when we don't align with the phases. The ultimate role of each cycle phase is to prepare the body for potential pregnancy, but that's not the only benefit or purpose of this cycle. Even when we're not trying to conceive, these phases are still happening internally, and they're shifting our hormones, influencing our energy, motivation, mood, creativity, productivity, and brain function. When we honor each phase instead of forcing ourselves to live the same way all month long, we can actually be more productive, healthy, and successful with greater ease and way less effort. Our menstrual cycle is also a feedback system which constantly reflects our overall health. We're really blessed to receive such clear signals month after month, offering clues that guide us in our healing and bring the body back into balance naturally. Even the act of bleeding gives the body the ability to release built-up toxins, excess iron, and inflammatory byproducts that otherwise would be building up in the body over time. It's a natural monthly reset that supports detoxification and helps keep the body in balance. And honestly, men don't get that benefit. It's an actual great thing that we get this clearing out every month of all these excess things. So it's become common to perceive our periods as a burden that makes life more difficult, but that narrative stems from trying to force ourselves into a lifestyle that's built around a 24-hour hormonal cycle. Hello, patriarchy. And that's exactly what the majority of the world does. While it can feel frustrating to realize that we were born into a society that doesn't align with our biology, I believe we're here to learn, share, and light the way forward. We don't need to change everything at once to honor our cycle phases. We can begin small and make meaningful shifts that support our body's true nature. And over time, those small shifts can lead to really big cultural changes, especially as more people begin to realize that honoring women's cyclical nature actually benefits everyone, not just women. And understanding the menstrual cycle allows us to stop fighting our biology and start flowing with it. Each phase has its own superpowers, and when we tune into them, we unlock a deeper level of vitality, intuition, and potential. So let's now talk about cycle syncing and the 4 phases. Cycle syncing is the practice of learning the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle and gently adjusting how we live, what we eat, how we move, how we rest, and how we spend our time to align with what our body naturally craves in each phase. It's not a strict protocol, it's a flexible structure that helps us work with our bodies instead of against them. We can think of each phase of the cycle like seasons. The follicular phase is like spring, the ovulatory like summer, the luteal like fall, and the menstrual like winter. The length of each phase is an estimate, and there may be some overlap as you transition from one phase to the next. Honestly, a lot like the seasons. When we're switching from summer to fall, there are some days that are warmer and some days that feel a little more like fall. So for example, as you shift from menstrual or winter to follicular spring, there will be a couple of days of transition before you feel your energy fully rise into that spring energy. For this reason, it's important to ultimately stay in tune with where you are in your cycle, not just which phase, but which part of each phase. As you check out the information for each phase, remember that these suggestions simply support the body in its hormonal and energetic state of each stage. So you don't need to restrict yourself to the foods listed during that stage. Just try to add in these foods as you can. And I want to make an important note here. If you're dealing with any type of hormonal imbalance or a diagnosis that indicates hormone imbalance, fatigue, anxiety, depression, or you're focusing on weight loss, it's really best to actually, as a biological woman, keep your workouts to 30 minutes or less. This prevents excess stress and cortisol release, which can actually shift the body into fat storage mode. A lot of people have never heard of this and don't realize this. So all of these issues can be greatly improved through cycle syncing, which can be a game changer. If you've ever felt like your energy or emotions are unpredictable, this can be really helpful. It's not you, it's your cycle. And as your hormones rebalance, your body becomes better equipped to benefit from longer workouts without them backfiring. And I think this should come as a relief. When you're dealing with these things, a lot of people think that equation of eat less, exercise more equals perfect health. We've been proven time and time again that there's so much more to it than that. And for women, so much of this research wasn't done on women's bodies. It was done on men's bodies. So this cycle syncing really may help with these problems. Like I said, hormone imbalances, fatigue, anxiety, depression, weight loss. It can help all of those things with so much less effort. So again, keep your workouts to 30 minutes or less while you're addressing these different issues and getting into cycle syncing. So let's explore each of the 4 phases along with supportive tips for food, movement, rest, and daily life. And I do want to point out that all of these phases and the tips for them are so not strict or restrictive. They're more of like a guideline, and you're going to see that there is no diet plan or meal plan. It's just foods that would be best to include at that time. You don't need to cut anything out necessarily, but these are just tips that are going to support whatever balance of hormones is naturally going on. So first, I'm going to start with follicular because it's inner spring, and I feel like spring is the start of everything. So this is going to happen right after your period ends. So the first days are a transition. So take it easy until you feel your energy rise. This phase typically spans days around 6 to 12 of your cycle and lasts about 6 to 10 days. And as an overview, some words to describe the follicular phase are creativity. It's a time to brainstorm, plan, create, and start. So what's happening in your body? Your hormones are low at the start, but they begin to rise throughout this phase. FSH, or follicle stimulating hormone, signals to the ovaries to mature eggs, while estrogen increases to start rebuilding the uterine lining so that it can host an egg later on, which is in preparation for potential pregnancy. You don't totally have to understand all this to start cycle syncing, but I think it's helpful for some people to understand what's going on biologically. Also, your energy. This phase feels like a fresh start and gives you access to a surge in creative energy. It's an ideal time to try new things, start projects, plan ahead, brainstorm, and dream big. Your superpowers at this time are drive, energy, stamina, memory, logic, reasoning, fearlessness, risk-taking, and openness. And what you want to watch out for is overlooking the truth, red flags, or things that are not serving you because you're in such an optimistic state. Also, overcommitting to future obligations while you're still in an energetic high. For food, you want to eat more fresh, vibrant, raw foods and lighter cooking methods to keep you feeling energized when your hormones are beginning to rise. So you want to eat phytoestrogens, which are plant-based compounds that mimic the body's natural estrogen and gently support estrogen when it's still low, and probiotic and prebiotic rich foods, which help balance your estrobolome, which is the part of the microbiome that processes estrogen, and it primes your gut for ovulation. And you might feel better with lighter meals and smaller portions because your metabolism is still slower in this half of the cycle. So you just don't need quite as many calories or carbohydrates. But of course, don't make yourself hungry. You just might feel better when you eat smaller portions. So I have a chart here with the foods that are best to add in at this time. I'm not going to list them all out, but you can find them on the blog post or in that guide that you can get for free. Also in the follicular phase, for exercise, your energy is rising. This is the time to reintroduce more intense movement like cardio, strength training, Pilates, running, walking, biking, dance, or jump rope. It's also a great time to try a new class or shake up your routine. In work, it's a great time to start new projects, plan ahead, brainstorm, and do public-facing activities like presentations or meetings. You also may want to work longer hours in this phase. When it comes to social life, you want to try new things, socialize, share. You may want to be seen and heard at this time. When it comes to romance, break out of your routine, be playful, or try something new. And when it comes to sex, your hormone levels are still low, so there will be a natural dryness. So it's smart to use lube to support comfort and pleasure. Okay, moving on to ovulatory, which is inner summer. So next comes the ovulatory phase. It follows the inner spring, and it carries an even more vibrant outward energy. So this phase typically lands on days around 13 to 18 of your cycle, and it lasts about 4 to 6 days. The overview is communication. It's a good time to collaborate, connect, speak, and lead. And what's happening in the body is that estrogen and LH, or luteinizing hormone, rise to trigger the release of a mature egg from the ovary into the fallopian tube to make its way to the uterus. So this is your most fertile time. Estrogen and testosterone peak during this phase, which supports energy, mood, and libido. Your energy is at the high point of the cycle at this time. So you're magnetic, you're expressive, you're energized. It's a perfect time for communication, collaboration, important conversations, bold action, and making things happen. And your superpower at this time is communication, verbal skills, confidence, magnetism, being captivating and persuasive, not taking things personally, an elevated mood, an ability to lead and make things happen. And what you want to watch out for, again, is overlooking the truth, red flags, or things that are not serving you because you're in such an optimistic state. And again, overcommitting to future obligations while you're in an energetic high. Food is a little bit similar. You might feel better with lighter meals and smaller portions as your metabolism is still slower in this half of the cycle, but it is beginning to rise. So you may not need as many calories or carbohydrates, but again, it is your metabolism starting to rise, so it might you might want a little more food. And this is the time that your body can handle the most raw food, like the most raw vegetables or something like that. So fruits and veggies are perfect because of their cooling effect. They have a lot of fiber. They have high levels of glutathione, which is an antioxidant that helps the liver metabolize excess estrogen from the body. And eating foods with high fiber support the large intestine in flushing out the estrogen that the liver is metabolizing. So these foods in the chart here have antioxidants and provide vascular support so the body can create the healthiest egg while preventing estrogen-driven symptoms like acne and bloating. So again, I have a chart with some food here. And then exercise in the ovulatory phase. You're at your peak energy, which means you can handle high-intensity workouts with the most ease. So it's a time for things like HIIT, kickboxing, boot camp, running, biking, dance, strength training, Pilates, walking, jump rope, anything like that. It's also the best time for group classes or anything upbeat and social. When it comes to work, it's a good time to have important conversations, like say asking for a raise, negotiating, going to meetings, events, anything public facing, speaking, and it's also a good time to receive constructive feedback. And then for social life, you want to collaborate, have social gatherings, have conversations and meaningful exchanges, and connect with loved ones or new friends. When it comes to romance in the ovulatory time, it's a time for receiving, plan date nights with others or attend social events as a couple, and have conversations about dreams and the future, and it's a really great time for first dates as well. When it comes to sex, your hormone levels are very high, there's more natural lubrication, and you can focus on receiving and enjoying. It's naturally a pleasurable phase, so you may feel more receptive, sensual, and magnetic. Now let's shift into the luteal phase, which can be called inner fall. So after the brightness of the ovulation and inner summer, we begin to descend into the luteal phase or inner fall. This is the longest phase of the cycle, and it typically lasts around days 19 to 28, and it stretches over about 10 to 14 days. So you may experience productive energy in the beginning, but there will be a shift about halfway through. So this one, again, it's like you're thinking of fall. The beginning of fall still sometimes has warm days. The beginning of fall right now, I'm recording this in September, has warm, summery feeling days still. So the whole luteal phase isn't all doom and gloom, but about halfway through, energy drops as hormones dip and the body begins preparing for menstruation. So the final few days can be the most emotionally and physically demanding part of the entire cycle, and they often require extra rest and gentleness. And this is the part a lot of people complain about, and I'm going to show you all about the luteal phase in a new light here. Because the overview word is power. It's a good time to execute, to edit, and to complete. What's happening in your body? Your body is producing progesterone to support a potential pregnancy, and estrogen continues to rise. The uterine lining thickens to prepare for a fertilized egg. If pregnancy doesn't occur, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone all peak before dropping to their lowest levels right before your period starts. So PMS happens around this hormonal crash as a result of too much estrogen in relation to progesterone, aka estrogen dominance. So balancing these hormones can naturally improve PMS symptoms. When it comes to your energy, again, this phase can be so deeply powerful, especially in the first half, but energy dips towards the end, which requires more rest. And it's a time for getting things done, completing projects, admin type of tasks, tending to details, editing, productive conversations, and making important decisions. Your intuition sharpens and your tolerance for anything unaligned drops. And it's very easy to see the truth. And I think that's the magic of the luteal phase. Your superpowers are power, focus, attention to detail, ability to get tasks done, bringing things to completion, power in conversations, decision making, discernment, intuition, honesty, recognizing the truth, and the ability to be honest with yourself. This is amazing because when it comes down to it, in the amazing phases of the follicular and ovulatory, when your energy's up and you're feeling naturally really happy and everything, you kind of can have rose-tinted glasses on and see things as better than they really are. And okay, that's great, that feels good. But the luteal phase is such a good time for you to get honest with yourself and for you to get really discerning and make decisions and be real about it and see what you're not tolerating anymore. See what you're not okay with without the facade of the rose-tinted glasses. So what you want to watch out for is mood swings, anxiety, sadness, which are all typically due to dropping hormones in the second half. So it really is just your phase. It's not you, it's your hormones. When it comes to the luteal phase for food, your metabolism starts to speed up in this phase, so your body actually needs way more calories, especially B vitamins, to support progesterone production and stable blood sugar. So to support your body, you want to eat slow-burning carbs like sweet potatoes, brown rice, and squash, which will also help reduce sugar cravings. You also want to incorporate foods high in B vitamins, calcium, magnesium, and fiber, like cooked leafy greens, whether they're collards, mustard greens, watercress, which help with fluid retention and more. And also adding in high fiber foods like chickpeas, apples, pears, and walnuts to help your liver and gut flush out excess estrogen. In the second half of the luteal phase, as estrogen dips, you want to nourish with root vegetables and complex carbs like millet to support serotonin and dopamine levels, which helps keep the mood regulated. You also want to focus on nutrient-dense foods with more calories to avoid energy dips during your period and support digestion. The rise in progesterone can slow the bowels in the second half, So you can help prevent that constipation issue that could come from that with fiber-rich whole foods. And again, I have a chart here with the suggested foods. And for the luteal phase exercise, there is 2 parts really to the luteal phase. So the first part, or about the first 5 days, you still have a lot of energy, but it's best channeled into workouts that build strength without overexertion. So this is a really good time for strength training, Pilates, bar, and intense yoga. But then in part 2, which is about the last 7 days, as hormones drop, your body shifts out of muscle building mode. So you want to focus on gentle movement that supports flexibility and makes you feel calm. Gentle yoga, walking, stretching, or dancing. When it comes to work during the luteal phase, for the first part, you want to focus on completing projects and tasks, reviewing details, admin type of tasks, accounting, reports, organizing, productive meetings or conversations, and decision making. And then when it gets to part 2, as your energy dips towards the end, you want to really lean into your intuition, analyzing, and reflecting. When it comes to social life, in part 1, you may still feel social and collaborative, great time for conversations and gatherings, but then when it gets to part 2, you may want to be more inward. So issues can rise to the surface, and if you're not hormonally balanced, you may have trouble distinguishing between true issues and PMS irritability. And the way to address this is you can either kind of recognize that and like go through a few cycles to like gain clarity on like, is this real or is this PMS? Otherwise, you could just address the issue when you're in a different phase of the cycle and like reassess it. When it comes to romance, this is the best phase for day-to-day stuff like cleaning, finances, household stuff with your partner, and be truthful and have productive conversations. It's also the easiest time to break up with someone. And for sex, in the first part of the luteal phase, your hormones are still elevated. So there's more cervical fluid or natural lubrication. But in the second part of the luteal phase, your hormones dip and dryness is common. So use lubrication and focus on comfort and connection. Now we're going to head into the menstrual phase or inner winter. Following the luteal phase or inner fall comes the menstrual phase or inner winter. Just like the end of the luteal phase, this phase calls for deep rest, but there's often also a sense of relief as your period begins. The emotional and physical intensity of the previous days start to lift. This phase typically begins on day 1 of your cycle and lasts around 3 to 7 days. The overview word is intuition. This is an amazing time to assess, evaluate, and access both the left and right brain, meaning that you are able to be intuitive, but also be kind of thinking logically at the same time. You kind of have this like really incredible access to your brain, and it's such a good time. Like, people dread their period, and I love my period. I soak up that intuition. This is such a powerful time that people don't realize is a good thing. So what's happening in your body? Estrogen peaks, then it drops right before your period begins, and progesterone also drops, which triggers your uterus to shed its lining, and that's what we're experiencing as menstrual bleeding. Your energy. This is the most inward, restful phase of the cycle. Your energy is very low, but your intuition is very high. It's a time for intuition, reflection, self-care, stillness, gentle restoration, and relaxation. Your superpowers at this time are deep intuition, access to both left and right brain, which are communicating powerfully, reflection, clarity on your purpose and which direction to move, the ability to release, and forgiveness. You can watch out for guilt for slowing down. A lot of people feel really guilty for resting, even though that is exactly what your body is meant to be doing at this time, and it's what will create the most productivity in the next phases of the cycle. Also, watch out for low mood, anxiety, or sadness that may surface due to the hormone levels being at their lowest. When it comes to food, at this point in your cycle, hormones are at their lowest, so compensating with protein, healthy fats, and mineral-rich foods will help stabilize your mood and energy. You want to increase protein and healthy fats to support hormone synthesis and blood sugar balance. Eat nutrient-dense foods like red meat, buckwheat, and kidney beans to support the blood and replenish minerals. Include warming spices like ginger, turmeric, and cinnamon to support circulation and comfort. And focus on low glycemic fruits and veggies for fiber and antioxidants. Also, seafood and veggies like kelp and seaweed can help remineralize your body with iron, zinc, and other trace minerals. Again, I have an organized chart by food group with suggestions. For exercise for the menstrual phase, your hormones and energy levels are still at their lowest, and your body is in deep repair mode. So intense exercise will likely backfire by adding stress to the body, turning on fat storage, and causing muscle wasting. So focus on restorative activities like restorative yoga, stretching, and dancing. Or you can just skip the exercise and sleep more. This will support your energy levels, gains, and productivity throughout the following phases. When it comes to work independently if possible. Reflect, use your intuition, release what isn't working, pivot if needed, and take on as little work as possible because you'll be more productive in the following phases because of it. And like I said, this is just such a good time to go inward and assess how to move forward, which is a really powerful and an important part of any type of project or work or business or any type of thing you're doing with your life and your purpose. Also with social life, you may want more alone time to recharge and reconnect with yourself, soothing and low-key interactions, relaxing activities, and conversations that allow you to reflect and explore your intuition. I know one girl who was sharing her knowledge about the menstrual phase, and she was saying that when she gets her period, she just tries to lay horizontal, for days, the first few days of her period, she tries to stand up as little as possible and truly rest the whole time, do super relaxing things. So anyway, when it comes to romance, you may want more alone time to recharge and reconnect with yourself, soothing low-key interactions, again, relaxing activities and conversations that allow you to reflect and explore your intuition, same thing as the social life. And when it comes to sex, you may want sex right before your period due to increased volume and pressure in your uterus, but other than that, your libido will probably be lower, but nature has made pleasure available to you for your entire cycle. So sex during your period can improve PMS and cramp symptoms, and there's no problem with that. So if having sex, menstrual blood does not act like a lubricant because it dries quickly. So use lubrication. And now we're just going to discuss how to track your cycle. There are so many ways to track it and stay in tune with your body. So whether you're a pen and paper kind of girl or you prefer the digital way or you like both, here are some ways to track your phases easily. First and foremost, apps. So there are so many apps to track your cycle and symptoms, and many of them come with a catch. A lot of them collect and sell your data, including your symptoms and patterns, to advertisers who want to market to you when you're feeling your most vulnerable, which is not cool. That's why I only use and recommend here women-owned apps that prioritize privacy. So here are a couple of my favorites. I use one called Stardust. It is a little more witchy and woo-woo. It tracks the moon and adds a mystical layer. It's very fun and aesthetic, but it might not be as straightforward to navigate for someone who just wants something clear and straightforward. So if I were to choose a different one, I would choose one called Yuki. It's EUKI. It's straightforward with no fluff. It uses a simple layout. And then another one that's very similar to that is Clue. Again, it's a clean layout with detailed symptom tracking, and it's based in Europe, so it follows a very strict data protection law under the EU's GDPR. And I linked each of these apps here in the post. You also could do this Google Calendar hack that I use, it helps me sync my cycle and my schedule. I use Google Calendar to keep whatever I'm scheduling clear to me. So what I do is I add in my cycle phases in a color coding system to help me visually map out and see what phase I'm going to be in when I'm planning things. So it helps me align my plans with my energy so I can plan things at the times that I can show up my best. So to do this, if you want to do it, step 1 is going to be creating 4 separate calendars, and I color code them as menstrual phase is pink, follicular is green, ovulatory is blue, and luteal is purple. And I just color code that in everything. I have the free guide for you, and it's color coded that way as well, just to give a visual. And then I just add my last period as an event on the menstrual calendar. So you can name it inner winter or menstrual, or put an emoji, whatever you want. And you make it an event, and you make it say all day, and you make it last for however many days, your cycle lasted. And it's going to go into your calendar, and you're going to set it to repeat monthly. And then once you do that with your menstrual phase, then you can go in and do follicular phase. And again, you're kind of using the days as like a guesstimate, and you're just going to kind of plan that in all 4 phases. And you're going to set each one to repeat monthly. And if your period shifts, you just adjust the start date and apply the changes to all future dates. And then I also add a little description to each section that just allows me to know anything, any reminders, like this is your, luteal phase, power phase, like whatever. And it's also a good way you can track symptoms. You can journal in there. You can add affirmations or phase specific tips for you. You can also add a notification to remind you when a new phase begins to cue you into mindset and planning shifts. And then also, if you want to declutter your calendar and not have those there, you can deselect or uncheck those phase calendars, and they'll go off your calendar. And then you can check them again when you want to put them back on. And then, of course, you can also use a physical calendar. So you can apply this same color coding system to your own physical calendar or planner. I'm actually designing one for myself, and I will definitely make it available when it's ready, so stay tuned for that. Remember, tracking your cycle is meant to support you in understanding and honoring your unique nature so you can feel and live better. It's not about perfection, and there's truly no right way to do this. It's all about tuning into your body, honoring what it's asking for, and making choices that feel supportive in each phase. So let your body and your feelings lead the way in this process. And again, I created a free cycle syncing guide with cheat sheets for each phase. It's color coded, it's printable, it's a PDF. It has everything you need for each phase, organized beautifully with 1 page per phase. And you can use this as a quick reference or learning tool to help you cycle sync with more ease. So you can grab that for free in the show notes or on the blog posts. And while this post offers a lot of helpful information, you don't need to remember everything to start cycle syncing today. This isn't about perfection. It's about the subtle shifts that align you with your true nature. It's not a rigid plan or a diet. It's about adding foods, habits, and actions that make you feel better. So use this as a guide, not a rule book. Just one change, like one meal, one workout, one shift in plans can make a meaningful difference in how you feel and spark momentum for more. Most importantly, remember that your cycle is a gift. It's natural, powerful, and full of benefits. It's not something to fix, it's a language to learn. Imagine how much everyone would benefit if more women flowed in sync with their cycles, tapping into their unique strengths, improving their health, energy, productivity, and well-being. Since this wisdom isn't yet mainstream, it's up to us to lead the way by practicing living in tune with our bodies and letting the results speak for themselves. I'd love to hear what this unlocks you, so feel free to reach out. And if this resonated, please share it with someone who might benefit. I hope this was helpful. Thank you for listening. The best way to say thank you is by subscribing and leaving a review. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you love or post it on social media and tag me at KristenRoseXO. You can find all my free resources and current offers at KristenRoseXO.com. That's Kristen with an E. Everything is linked for you in the show notes. Have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon.